following is my conversation with Juliet Elliot. Juliet is a pioneer in online cycling content creation. She started with a blog, Bikes and Stuff, and shifted to Instagram, and now her focus is mainly on YouTube, where she has over 100,000 subscribers. She posts new videos weekly, and her style and enthusiasm are infectious. We talk about how she got started in cycling through love of fixed gear bikes, and how she's taken this passion for riding and made a career out of it. Thank you for coming on. And maybe, I don't know if we want to get started, you can just tell me a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, and kind of how you got started.
Sure. Okay, so I'm Juliet Elliot. I'm from the UK, currently living in Devon, near the seaside, near some great riding. But initially I got into cycling when I was living in London, and it was right around when fixed gear bikes were really, exploding in popularity. And I previously commuted a bit, but I just couldn't really care less about cycling. It was just a means of getting around. It didn't really grab me in any particular way. But when my bikes kept getting stolen, it was just so annoying, and parts kept getting stripped off my bikes, just rubbish bikes, not even good ones. I decided to build up the simplest, cheapest bike that I could, and that was a fixed gear bike. So I managed to get my hands on a frame that had been abandoned, and then I just went online and spent a lot of time figuring out how to do a fixed gear conversion and just basically learning about bikes, really. And I quite liked the project of that. And I sort of managed to meet a crew of people through going on forums and going along to fixed gear meetups and stuff. And basically, once I built that bike up, by my own hands and started riding it, I just totally fell in love with it. It was just such a fun feeling. You ride so differently on a fixed gear bike. You have to kind of go with the flow of the traffic more, anticipate things a lot more. It's a lot more sort of playful. And for me, I felt kind of more connected to the bike. It was more, I don't know. I just really loved it. So
no brakes.
To cut a long story short.
No brakes.
Sorry?
No brakes.
No brakes.
So tell me, so you lived in London.
Yeah.
You kind of got into the scene a bit, and I know, would this have been around like 2012, 2011 or later?
Oh, like before that. It must have been like 2008 or something.
Okay, because there was sort of this kind of renaissance of fixed gear, if you want to call it that, where they got really popular around 2008, 2009. And so you were finding a community around that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So there were little fixed gear crews springing up around London, and I got to know the people behind that sort of thing. And I would ride over to a car park every Tuesday evening in East London, where all the fixed gear riders would meet up, and we would learn or try to learn how to do tricks on our bikes, and drink some beers and go for a smash around the streets, riding our bikes. It was just a really fun time. So I suppose I really liked the whole community side of it, as well as the more sort of bike riding side, and that's really what sort of got me into cycling.
So, okay. So, we got to kind of fill some people in. I'm sort of kind of an insider on the fixed gear scene. I've worked with Chinelli for almost 10 years now, and they sponsored some big races. But so tell me about because I'm assuming, I don't know the story, but I'm assuming that Instagram and kind of the style of fixed gear kind of impacted how you became, because you're one of the first kind of female fixed gear riders that I would call had a really high profile around. That's just what I remember. You had a really good following, a strong following on Instagram. Can you tell me about how that happened?
Well, going back to when it all started, that was before Instagram.
Right.
It hadn't even started, and it was before people were doing YouTube. I mean, even Facebook was only just starting to be popular, and I didn't have a Facebook account. But what I did have, or what I started, was a blog. So I wanted to kind of keep a visual diary and a written diary of what I was doing. So I started this blog, and there are a few bloggers around the world, like John Prolly, who now does the Radavist, and we used to repost each other's stuff and share stories of what was going on around the world. So it was kind of through blogging that I got my story out there, so to speak.
And is this bikes and stuff?
Yeah, which is still sort of there, but really neglected.
Were you able to then, okay, this is cool. So you were able to then begin monetizing this at a certain point, or
Yeah.
You were? Okay, tell me about that.
Well, basically what happened was the guys at Fixed Gear London, who were a kind of, Fixed Gear crew, they, one of their male riders was sponsored by Charge Bikes. And Nick Larson from Charge mentioned that he would like to support a female rider as well. And they suggested me. So that's why I started the blog, because I thought, hey, this is really cool, interesting stuff that's happening. I used to like writing a diary when I was younger, and I would paste in like ticket stubs and photos and stuff. But I realized that at that point in time, I never had any printed photos. I just had digital stuff. And I thought, this is cool. I'm being sponsored by these guys, and there's this whole new thing happening. I'm going to write a diary. I'm going to do it online. I'm going to post my digital photo. So when I'm older, I can look back and see it. But what actually happened is other people started looking at it as well.
So you got some traffic. And
yeah, exactly. And then I started writing for other like websites and magazines. I mean, I was a bit of a hustler back then. I was actually working I was working at a record label in the marketing department, but I knew I didn't want to stay there. So me and my friend Posey, we decided we had to somehow get into the bike industry. So what we did was we offered to do the PR for Charge Bikes for free unless we got any coverage, and then we get paid for the coverage.
Okay. So you had sort of an incentive. So if you got, so it's just PR. And for people that don't know, PR is like you're reaching out to publications to get articles written on behalf of a press release that you write. Is that kind of what you were doing?
Yeah, basically. So we would try and get Charge Bikes into magazines, which we did manage to do, but also we'd kind of use ourselves. So we'd pitch ideas where Posey and I got to go somewhere and do something, and then we'd write it up. So we managed to get to New York, and we wrote a piece for ID magazine, and we were just having a good time really, but also trying to make sure that we had some sort of career that was, well, we wanted to be self-employed basically. So
sure. And it sounds like you're learning the ropes of cycling media.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I mean, we were quite, I don't know, like back then in London, everyone I knew was doing something cool and making something of themselves, and it was quite inspiring. So you felt like if you weren't, then well, what are you doing? Why aren't you? So
it's some FOMO.
I just sort of I was like, right, well, I've got to get something going here. So that's what I did. And we moved into putting on small events and stuff. Like we did a product launch for Nog Lights and put on some parties and stuff. We were just kind of sounding out what we could do and what would work.
And it sounds like it kind of morphed into an agency, sort of an agency freelance business, to where you were kind of specializing in the bike industry.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I never really liked doing PR though, because essentially it always feels like you're asking for something.
Sure. You're not building anything.
Yeah. You're always like begging people to put your stuff in their magazine. So I never particularly liked it, but it felt like it felt like it was a good starting point anyway.
Sure.
So I started with that. And then, gosh, it's such a long story.
We have time. We have time.
Okay. Started with all that, and then I ended up leaving the record label and getting a job as a bike messenger 4 days a week
in London,
so that I could do my side hustle whilst also riding my bike all the time. So I'd be like delivering parcels all around London, and then in between delivering the parcels, I'd be like, on my phone, messaging people, trying to sort out, bits and pieces of work.
Was that dangerous?
Well, the bike messenger stuff?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it depends how you ride. I mean, back then I didn't even wear a helmet, which I now think is completely insane.
That is insane. I
But
agree.
no, people didn't then.
Wow. We're making it sound like it's in the like the 40s or something. This is literally like 15 years ago. It's not
I
that long
know, but
ago.
how I know, but the world has changed so dramatically since then, hasn't it?
It has. It has. But so you started writing, and so you're really kind of going deep into this community, and you continue with your work as sort of support, marketing support,
Yeah.
and then what was kind of the next step then for you?
Okay, well, the next thing I did, I can't remember when Instagram came out. I guess I started doing that and I started doing some stuff on Facebook. But the next big move was I decided to leave London and move to Devon, to the southwest. And basically, I just wanted to go and live somewhere cheap where I could ride my bike a lot. So I wouldn't have to be so worried about money. It meant that I could, try and launch a career and ride a lot and live a cheap life. But yeah, that was it really. So I moved down to Devon
But
and
so did you have some income from the blog and the agency? You felt like the agency could be done remotely? Is that kind of how that worked? Or because I'm just trying
yeah,
to
so I
I'm trying to
had,
figure out the economics of all this, because it
yeah,
sounds like, because to leave London at that time, you know, sounds to me a little bit risky, because you've got a lot of movement there, a lot of things happening. But for you to go to a different place, perhaps you said, okay, I have my blog, I have some contacts, I can kind of do this remotely. So is that
yeah,
kind of how that worked?
exactly. Yeah. So I was writing a bit more for magazines and stuff at that
Okay.
point. So
So
I
you
had
could do
some
it remotely.
freelance stuff. Yeah, I had some freelance writing. I had some freelance PR and marketing stuff that I could just do from wherever I was. So I took that with me and moved down to the southwest.
Because London, I imagine there's a lot of pressure.
It's just so
Just so
expensive.
expensive. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Totally. Did you like the London lifestyle?
I did initially, but I kind of grew out of it really. So I liked it when I was partying quite a lot and quite involved in all that sort of thing. And as I got more into bikes, I started going out less, I suppose. And I just wanted to be riding a lot. So I would spend all of my free time getting out of London, riding out of London, going to skate parks, that kind of thing. So I sort of thought, well, why am I even here? I'm spending all this money to be here. I'm not going to art galleries, to, openings and museums. I'm just riding my bike. Well, I could do that somewhere else for cheaper and, probably better.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from the Peak District, further up north near Sheffield.
Okay. And so when you moved to London, that was sort of a kind of a destination for you. You wanted to kind of live that life. It was something you wanted to
Yeah,
try.
yeah. I mean, London's definitely got its appeal.
Sure. And so you made the move, sort of the OG nomad lifestyle, sounds like. Uh, and so you were able to make that work. And so once you moved, you continued to do writing and writing, and the agency
Yes,
work.
I did. And then I launched a self-published magazine called Coven Magazine. And I did that for a bit. Then I got a job doing marketing for Met Helmets.
Yeah, I know, Matt.
Um,
For the UK
and
or for the Europe or what?
Europe. Well, no,
Europe.
global actually. Sorry.
Okay.
So it was. I wasn't head of marketing. I was like marketing and
Sure.
communications. Yeah. So
Writing, things like that.
yeah. So I moved to Italy to take up that job.
Wow. Like
Um,
they're like up in the north, kind of near in the
yeah,
mountains,
near
aren't
Lake
they?
Como.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
And
together with my ex-husband, we moved to Italy and gave that job a go, but things didn't work out. To cut a long story short, we
how
moved
long
back to England.
for how long were you there?
Not very long at all.
It just didn't work.
It just didn't work. There are a few things. My ex-husband's mother got really, really sick,
Sure.
and he was pretty unhappy there. Wanted to get back to be closer to her. Honestly, I didn't really like the job either. It just all didn't work out, and it made more sense to cut my losses and move back to the UK. So
Working
that's
in
what we did.
working in Italy is not it's
Not
not for
easy.
everybody. It's not for everybody. You do have to kind of take the good with the bad. Why don't we just leave it there?
Yeah, I love Italy.
I
To
bet.
me, moving to Italy was the absolute dream. So it is a shame it didn't work, but you got to try these things. You
You
never know
do.
otherwise, huh?
You sound, I live, so I'm an expat and I live in Turin, Italy, but I'm originally from the US. And one of the most amazing things about being an expat is that you meet people that are so, I want to find the right word, adventurous, and so just being able to meet, it sounds like you've always kind of had a adventurous side, and it sounds like you're really kind of going after that. And so like until you try that, and people, it's hard, like when you do
Yeah,
these little adventures, you really really kind of smack against a wall, and really are like, oh my goodness, this was wrong. But you learn so much when you do these things. You really do.
absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
you have to do it. Like it's just it for people that that are interested in kind of growing and exploring. It's just part of the game.
Yeah, totally. I always think, if you've got an itch, you've got to scratch it.
Sure. Sure, yeah. And so you came back to Devon.
Yeah. Came back to Devon, and by this point I was sponsored by ASOS
Oh yeah, I
or
remember you were the
ASOS.
face of ASOS for a long
Yeah.
for the longest time. I remember. So you did the photo shoots and all their Instagram and everything like that. And you were just doing the modeling, or were you also working with them?
Well, I was sponsored as a athlete, and I was racing Red Hook Crit by, oh no, not when I was in Italy. That's a little bit later. So when I was in Italy, I went to watch Red Hook Crit in Milan. And
One of the first ones.
that's what one of the first times they had a women's race. And seeing that is what got me into racing, because we were living up near Lake Como. It was in Milan. We went down to check it out,
It's
and I
not
was like,
far.
oh my God, that is so cool. I want to be one of the women inside the barriers, not the one outside watching. So so by that point I was sponsored by a few different people, including ASOS, who paid me pretty well, actually.
How did
So when
that
I moved back,
How did that
sorry,
happen? Can you tell us a little bit about how
sure.
these
Well,
sponsorships came about? Was it through your Instagram kind of
yeah,
visibility?
pretty sure it was through Instagram and some of the magazine articles and stuff like that. And
You had made a name for yourself in the industry. You
yeah,
had
I'd
a
made a bit of a name for myself,
and you had
and
a look that people liked, it seemed, and so
I
they were reaching out
guess,
to you.
yeah, so they got in touch. I was only around the other side of the lake, so I drove round to meet the guys in Lugano, and it all worked out. We signed a contract for the next year, and I guess that was one reason why I was comfortable leaving the job in Italy and moving back to the UK. I was like, okay, I'm not really happy here. My husband's not happy here. I have this other thing that I can make a real go of if I want to. So moved back to England, and I realized that if I put a bit more time into essentially marketing myself, then I could make a real go of things. So that's what I did. I thought, well, if ASOS has sponsored me and I'm getting, this amount of money, I could maybe get another sponsor, and then I can
Sure,
just do this full time.
sure.
So that's what I was thinking. And that's what I did.
So you were able to, and this is around 2015, 2016, just to give.
It must have been the year before I first started racing Red Hook. So when was that? Yes, about then probably.
Okay. And so you were like thinking to yourself, okay, I know marketing, I'm getting some
Yeah.
kind of some leads. People seem to
Yeah.
like the content that I make. So I'm just going to go all in on this, the
Yes.
personal brand of Juliet Elliot.
Yeah. So that's what I decided to do. And let me see. I'm trying to think where we were. Yeah, so moved back to England, and I was still working remotely for Met Helmets actually for a small amount of time. But then I stopped doing that, and I just focused full time on my own cycling career. Got some more sponsors, and then Red Hook Crit came to London, and that's when I decided to start racing properly. So it's the Red Hook Crit really that got me into making the YouTube videos, because like back when I first got sponsored by Charge Bikes, I thought, this is really cool. I really want to share this cool atmosphere, this
Sure.
cool thing that's happening. I want to share this with people. I'll make a YouTube video about it because that would sit well on bikes and stuff. I decided that instead of just doing written content and photos, I'd start putting some videos on bikes and stuff. So started doing that at the Red Hook Crit events, and eventually the YouTube thing just took over everything else because it was going so well.
So yeah, so like there's a lot happening here. So you were able to, so you decided to document, so bikes and stuff was still part of your kind of routine. You were still making content for bikes and stuff, and you said, I want to video this. So who shot it? Who shot these first videos?
Oh, me on my phone.
Just you on your phone?
Yeah.
And what were you thinking? You're just like, I just want to document this. Was it like interview, more just kind of laid back? Were you talking?
No, exactly that. It was just, I wanted to show what it was like to race one of the events, because you can't really get the same feeling from being a spectator. I wanted to show people what it was like to be inside the event, because I'd already been to Red Hook Crit Milan and been on the, the outside of the barriers. I wanted to show people what it was like to be on the inside, to be a racer, and that whole thing. So it was just me, doing what I do now, really, talking to the camera, which was a phone, and telling people, oh, now we're doing this, and this is what you have to do. I'm signing on, and blah, blah, blah. And then I'd put a GoPro on my bike and do the race. And
that was super innovative at the time. So you kind of, because I guess what we're talking about here is, your kind of journey of documenting cycling in a way that people want to hear about. So you kind of had this voice where you wanted to show, starting with bikes and stuff, where you wanted to give and narrate your experience on the bike. But like, what do people, I guess this is where we can get into more of the technical side of it, but like, what do people, like, what works in that environment for you? Like when you're doing this, like what resonates with people?
Well, I think probably it's that I was just really genuinely excited about what I was doing. And so it was all quite, and I hope it still is, quite natural. It's just me being me, telling people what's going on, and I'm excited about bikes, and that comes across. So I think what people liked about it is that it was a bit more intimate and authentic than what you would see in a magazine.
No, that's super, super interesting. So it sounds like, no, I love this concept, because there has been, and you can tell me what you think about this, but there has been a revolution in the way that social media is consumed. But like, I'm just going to go and say TikTok has a really kind of candid and honest way of shooting video that people really, that resonates with people. And it sounds like you were doing this type of content where it's, person centric, honest, and sort of behind the scenes 6 years ago.
Yeah. It was just, I mean, despite the fact I've said, I decided that I wanted to focus on making a career out of what I was doing, there was a real genuine love for showing people the whole fixed gear scene. So I think, just the fact that I was enjoying doing it came across.
Sure. And people enjoy it, but I guess, so when did you realize that? so bikes and stuff. So you had, if we're talking about the business here, you had bikes and
Yeah.
stuff, you had your sponsorships, so you're able to kind of move forward. And then you put up a video, and did it immediately get some traction? Did you see that it was something that people were looking for?
Yeah, well, see, I already had quite a big, for that time, Instagram following. So I was able to point my audience towards this video. I had the audience there already rather than just starting from scratch.
Sure.
So that was helpful. But yeah, the video did do well. I mean, I didn't take it seriously until my ex-husband basically gave me a kick up the arse and was like, well, look, you should do this properly. He'd done a bit more. He used to watch a few more YouTube videos than I did. He noticed that mine were doing really well, and he said, you could make a real go of the YouTube thing. You need to start doing regular content. People release them, on the same day each week, and blah, 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 blah. I remember saying to him, oh man, I'm not doing one a week. That is so much work. But I gave it a try, and here we are today. It ended up working.
Yeah, so it sounds like, so you wanted to get really serious about it, and it sounds like, so your ex-husband he had kind of an eye on the business of it, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And so when did you, so you started building a plan from day one, or was it something that you had, like, how did you begin building a plan around it? Because to make a video once a week, that is, you have to put in some certain kind of routines, don't you?
Well, that would be the ideal, but I'm not very good at that sort of thing. So what would actually happen is I think I used to release on a Wednesday. So sometimes I'd get to Wednesday morning and I'd think, oh shit, I haven't done a video. What am I going to do a video about? So I'd have to think of something, and then I'd have to go and do it, film it, edit it, and put it out. Unfortunately, that is kind of still the way it works. I'm not super good at planning, and I can waste a lot of time planning, and then I just don't follow through and do what I've planned anyway. So I'm much more a sort of think on your feet kind of person, and just go with what feels right.
Sure. And so then when you began seeing the traffic, does it initially, is the monetization part of it, is that something that you turn on immediately, or do you have to get to a certain threshold before you can do that?
You have to have over 1,000 subs or a certain number of minutes viewed, but I had that straight away because of my Instagram following. Okay. So I switched on the monetization immediately. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. You know what really helped my YouTube channel? It was lockdown.
Okay.
Because everyone was stuck at home, weren't they? And they didn't have very much to do. So everyone was watching a lot of YouTube videos. And I think that really helped the growth of my channel.
So that was when it really kind of took off.
Yeah, I mean, it was already doing pretty well, but that's when it got an extra boost.
Okay. And so now you're continuing on. It sounds like the YouTube is probably the majority of the business now, or are you still doing other things?
Yeah, it's pretty much all YouTube. Well, actually, no, it isn't. It started to change again,
Okay. Tell me about it.
So now I have, a fair few sponsors, and they ask me to create specific content for them. Of course. Whether it's for my own Instagram account or for theirs.
Right.
And I found that's happening more and more and more. Smith Helmets will say, we've got these new glasses coming out. Please, can you do something about them? That's it. There's no more.
That's the brief.
Yeah, that's the brief.
But it sounds like it's up your alley.
Yeah, they send over the glasses, and I'm like, what am I going to do about these? I know. I'll put on that really cool kit I've got and make a little video. So Reels are doing really well on Instagram. Your cat is so cute, by the way. Could you see a cat behind you?
Yes, he's up there.
Oh!
Yeah.
Anyway, oh my God, so cute. Now I'm distracted. So So yeah, alongside the YouTube thing, I've noticed that more people want me to create content for them.
Yeah,
So
the user generated content.
yeah, so I'm now creating reels and posts for the brands that I work with. I'm working with Ruby. They'll say, we're doing a big contest where you can win a trip to the Vuelta. We want you to create some content around this. I mean, that is always the brief from these people. Create some content around this. And then you can kind of go ahead and do what you want, because they are working with you because they trust you and know that
Sure.
what you
And
do
that,
is going to be okay.
yeah, and that's great for you, because then you have the monetization on the YouTube, which
Yeah.
is, you know, coming in it sounds like pretty regularly, because you've got the
Yeah.
existing videos, then you've got the older videos
Yeah.
that continue to get content. The ones that work, can you tell us again about, like, maybe like what in your experience, what is kind of the recipe for a good video?
Well, that's quite tricky to pinpoint, and I wish I knew.
Okay.
Often it's
Because if you don't know,
you know what's weird? What often doesn't work is the ones that to me are really exciting and fun to make. Like, I'll get invited to Japan to go riding around a beautiful island. I will make this video that I really like, and then no one will watch it.
okay.
And then I'll come back to England and I'll make a video saying, guess how old I am? Everyone wants to know. So
Okay.
it's funny. There's like things that are more kind of personal and intimate. I suppose your regular viewers are into those because they want to get to know you a bit more.
Sure.
But then if you're trying to draw in more non-subscribers, then it's helpful to have more general content. So cool trips, races, or
Sure.
training tips and stuff like that. So there's a couple of different things going on there.
I would imagine the more general stuff can kind of be really friendly to the search engine optimization stuff. So like how to, you know, wrap a bar tape or things like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
That kind of thing does well.
And so, because the user generated content, you know, I do consulting for different brands, and it has been like pulling teeth to get brands to really invest in this kind of first person portrait kind of content, because I think they have a hard time. First of all, I think it's comfortable that just creating photo shoots and then just using the photo shoots on your social channels is, you know, it's really nice for them, because they, you know, they do the big photo shoots and then they just kind of push out the content. Where the video, it's a whole nother ball game. Like, you have to have, first of all, you have to have talent, someone that can be in front of the camera, which is not always easy. And then you have to be able to confidently go and represent the brand, you know, in a confident way. And I think maybe I'm I'm underestimating how difficult that can be. Does that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it can be tricky. Like, yeah, I can't think what to say about that. Yes, you're right.
No, I guess it's just like just working with brands. It's like, you know, the what you do is not, you don't find someone that can do what you do every single day, I guess is what I'm saying. And are there other like YouTubers out there that you're seeing that are doing something similar to what you're doing? Because I haven't seen that very many of them.
Yeah, well, there's definitely other YouTubers, some really great ones in the UK, like Katie Kookaburra and Francis Cade, putting out really nice videos, but they don't do the other stuff, like the you know, the user generated content that I do on Instagram. So
Okay.
I've started doing more of that recently, you know, for the brands that I work with, and I've noticed that Francis and Katie just do YouTube mainly. I mean, Francis puts some stuff on Instagram, but yeah, I've been pursuing that sort of angle because it seems to work quite well for me. I quite like doing it as well. I like making those little reels. They're fun.
Sure. Yeah. And they're punchy and they're fast.
Yeah.
Are you able to monetize Instagram as well or not?
Well, it's not direct, as in I get the money from Instagram, but
Right.
part of the reason I'm sponsored by these brands is because I make content for them on my Instagram.
Sure, of course, but I think maybe it's just in the U.S. then that they have a Reels where they actually they actually pay you
Oh,
for
right. Yeah,
Reels.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
So, and tell me about what do you think about TikTok?
Well, you know what? I've not gone down the whole TikTok thing because, well, several reasons. I just don't have time.
Sure.
Like, I do so many other things that I think I would be diluting what I do across the other platforms. Then also, I always felt I was maybe too old for TikTok.
No, you're not. You're absolutely not.
But
I'm on TikTok, so I'm much
yeah,
older than you.
I mean, I could just upload the reels that I make for Instagram. I could just upload those to TikTok, but just feels like another thing to do. And I mean, come on, like sometimes it's just too much. On Saturday, I was doing this ride. I was running 3 social media accounts on this ride
For clients?
and recording,
For clients?
and recording my own YouTube
Oh,
video.
wow. Okay. Yeah.
It's just too much.
No, I understand.
So,
I totally understand. And it's
so
like,
yeah.
it's so, but I guess then that comes to, because Reels, or I'm sorry, YouTube Shorts is another one. And I know maybe your answer is going to be the same. It's like you can only concentrate on so much right now.
Well, I recently uploaded one of my Instagram reels to YouTube Shorts just to see how that works. I've not really checked back on it since.
Sure. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I could just use the same videos for TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels. But then I feel like I would end up wasting a lot of time browsing those platforms, and I already waste too much time looking at Instagram. I don't want to be looking at TikTok too, basically.
Right. Well, it feels to me like it, because you're doing this by yourself, right? Or do you have you don't have any employees?
No.
Okay, so this is you by yourself, and so I think what we're running into here is there is a limit to what a one person content creation company can do, and so you've sort of had to make some decisions about what you can and what you can't do in the face of all these new platforms that are coming out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I always feel like I could work harder, but maybe I just don't want to.
No, it's we get one trip around, and you do have to enjoy yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So but yeah, this is really cool. That it sounds like everything is going pretty well, though.
Yeah, it is going well. I mean, I always feel like it's somewhat precarious because I have yearly contracts, and oftentimes I'll get to November and just think, what's going to happen for the next year? But I'll lose a contract, I'll gain one. Usually when that stops happening, then I'll look at something else. I used to think, oh my God, what am I going to do once my sort of cycling career, as a personality, once that is over, what am I going to do? I've got no real skills. And then you stop and you think, wait a minute, I've picked up so much along the way, just sort of accidentally. Like no one taught me how to edit and film videos. I watched YouTube videos that taught me how to do a lot of this stuff, and I've picked up a lot along the way. So I think now I've managed to accumulate some skills that will make me employable in the future, once I stop doing all this stuff for myself. So that's quite a nice thought.
So you think that there is an expiration to this stuff?
Well, I don't know. I mean, recently I was talking to a mortgage advisor, and they said, well, you need to have an exit strategy. If you're an athlete and I'm going to the bank to get you this mortgage and I put you down as an athlete, you need to have an exit strategy, because otherwise they're going to question what you do when you retire.
Okay.
And I said, well, I'm not in the strictest sense an athlete. Like a normal athlete. Right. You're talking about a rugby player who's going to retire.
Right.
I do more than that. It's not the same, but it just got me thinking, that's all.
But do you think that there is so for the next at least 5 years, I mean, I would think that YouTube is not going anywhere. You might be sort of shifting the efforts from perhaps one platform to the next, but this for the time being is going to be your focus, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to stick doing this. I mean, that would be the 5-year plan for sure. I mean, the focus of the videos might change. You know, I'll maybe try a different kind of racing or stop racing altogether and do more bike packing or stuff like that. You know, the content changes based on what I'm into at that point.
Sure.
So yeah, for at least the next 5 years, this is what I'll be doing. The only thing that worries me is if like my body let me down,
Sure. If
that
you
would
got
suck.
an injury or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
So you know, hopefully that won't happen. But as long as I'm still able to ride, then this is what I'm going to carry on doing.
And so what sort of riding are you doing lately, kind of in terms of style or content and stuff like that?
Well, my current passions are really gravel riding and racing and bike packing. So it's kind of hard to get the balance right because, well, I mean, I have a family and I have only so much time. I don't want to spend all of it away from home or doing really long training rides. So I do swing between, you know, I can never quite decide what to focus on. I try and do a bit of everything in the end. So this year I'm doing some big gravel races. I'm racing the Tracker, the Rift in Iceland. I'm doing a UCI gravel race in Scotland. But then I'm also going to do some bike packing trips, hopefully bike packing in Finland, and I'm doing an ultra bike packing race in Patagonia at the end of the year.
Oh,
There's
wow.
me just saying I'm not going to travel so much.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, I'm traveling a bit. So yeah, bike packing, gravel racing, and then in between all that, I just like riding my jump bike and going to the trails and stuff, and riding my mountain bike with my friends.
And so for the bigger rides, will you then be creating content throughout, I'm assuming throughout the rides, both for your channel as well as for your clients?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it gets pretty hard though on the hard races. Yeah. I have to think on my feet really with the content I make at races, because sometimes you have to make a decision between doing well and creating a nice story out of it. You know, if you want to go really hard from the gun, how are you going to do any filming?
Sure.
So it's a tricky one because I do want to do well, but I also really enjoy storytelling. So
It's a
yeah, we'll
balance.
see. In the past, I've had to give up on the filming, talking to the camera part, because it's just too much effort when I'm in the middle of a tough race. That happened last year when I went to Kenya to do migration gravel race.
Mhm.
There came a point where I found it a bit hard to talk to the camera. So I had to sit down when I got back and kind of tell the story and put in some clips and stuff.
Cool. So yeah, I'm excited, definitely excited to kind of just keep following you and keeping up on the various kind of because you know your excitement is really infectious, and I think that's kind of what people come to you know, to see on all your channels. So I again thank you so much for taking the time today. And where can people find you on socials?
Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you want to check out what I'm doing, then on Instagram, I'm Juliet Elliot, and on YouTube, I'm the not very snappily titled Juliet Elliot's channel.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Juliet. And this was awesome talking to you.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks, Wyatt. See you later.
Okay.